Simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Yeah. Unprofessional. Yeah. Unprofessional.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Simply Unprofessional. I'm your host, Webby. Joining me tonight, we got the person who's going to be hosting the rest of the episode, Rob.
Hey, everybody, it's Rob.
And we got Apple.
Hi.
Rob, I'm going to hand the reins over to you because you wanted to do this episode on a show that I have not watched. We do have myself and a couple other people just sitting in listening, so if we have comments or questions, we'll just pop in from time to time. But otherwise, listeners, this is going to be pretty much Rob and Apple shooting the shit about this show. That I will say, I'm sure it's a good show. Rob has watched it fucking 10 times beginning to end in the last 2 weeks.
Maybe, yeah.
And yet
I cursed him. I'm sorry.
I sit there and I say, "Hey, Rob, do you want to watch these 2 movies back to back?" And he just rolls his eyes at me like it's pulling teeth. He's like, but I don't like watching movies. You have to sit down for 2. It's like, you what? What?
Rob, I'm on your side. It's okay. I understand 100%.
You won't watch a 2-hour-long movie, but you'll watch
different.
A show beginning to end 10 times.
Yes, 100%.
2 weeks.
All day.
Asinine. Complete asinine.
All day.
I
you're
explained
committing?
to you what the difference was, that you could stop after an episode and do other things.
Exactly.
Whereas you
But
can't
you
stop
don't.
halfway through a movie.
But you
you could.
But
No,
I
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you
Okay.
could. You're mentally committing to less time.
I don't.
It doesn't matter.
I just don't understand.
I totally am on your side, Rob.
This is why I'm going to be silent the rest of the fucking episode,
It doesn't even
because
have anything to do with the show.
I don't even
Watch
care.
habits.
I don't even care. I guess I'll just watch all of the movies I want to watch by myself
I
at
told
3
you I
a.m.
will
when I
watch
can't sleep.
movies with you.
No, I don't want to take away from your TV time.
Oh my god.
All right. Well, Rob, I'm going to hand it off to you so you can go ahead and start the episode as far as like what show this is and do all your stuff.
Okay, so first of all, to all the listeners who it matters to, happy Pride Month.
Woo! Matters to everybody.
It should matter to everybody, but sometimes it doesn't. So we're going to be talking today about the Netflix show Heartstopper. Like Webby has said, I've watched it like 10 times now. Just because, personally, I think that it's that good. There are several reasons for this, but I guess we'll talk about them. Why? But the main one is because it makes me happy. Like, it is a feel-good show. The first couple times I watched it, there were parts that I actually teared up in happiness watching it. Subsequently, I still feel happy, but not enough emotionally to cry because I know it's coming. But yeah, so it is the story of 2 high schoolers who are both boys and fall in love. It's mostly like a feel-good. I guess you'd consider it a drama, even though there's not a lot of drama. But yeah,
Slice of life.
yeah.
And one of them's discovering their sexuality, which is such a personal journey. You know, anyone who has realized they're not straight, you've all had that journey at some point, and it's just nice to see it through somebody and see how positively it turns out.
Yeah.
It's great.
I will say, like, one of the reasons why I like it so much is because I never expected there to be a show like this in my lifetime, where the main characters are basically LGBT characters, and the show is mainly about them and their falling in love. Whereas usually shows that deal with gay characters are either like the side characters or things like or it's a comedy or whatever, and they're not really like the main focus of of anything. Whereas this, the first show where it's been like they are the main characters and it is about what's going on with them. A lot of times when I was younger, there was this thing that everyone called bury your gays, where every character that was written that was homosexual was always giving either died or was given a terrible ending, and it was specifically like that was the policy that LGBT characters couldn't have happy endings. And this is the
You're
first.
not wrong.
Yeah, and things have changed lately. Like there are more characters like that. They do get happy endings, but this is the first show that's focused specifically on those characters. Usually they're like side characters, and a lot of the newer ones too focused more on like the sex part of LGBT characters, whereas this is more just like the romance part. So like I understand like why sometimes people do write characters that way, because it's like, okay, we're talking about their sexuality, so sex should be a part of it. But it's like it's always seems like more over the top gratuitous in a way, whereas this is just like a feel good happy like romance thing where it's not like that.
What I really like about it too is it's definitely like teenagers could watch this and get just as much enjoyment out of it, and I like knowing that so many young kids can watch something like this, and just see such positive representation and maybe even themselves, because there's like a trans character, there's two lesbians, and you know they're kind of dealing with their coming out of like the negative reactions. There's a boy who's trying to figure out, is he straight, is he gay, is he bi? Like there's just so many different things that I feel is really good for LGBT youths to see.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
And it's just, I love it.
Yeah, like I said, when I was younger, it's difficult to find yourself in these kind of shows, like this, like watching this, like especially like I relate a lot more with Charlie. Like I used to play the drums, I was more like him, I got picked on a lot, so I relate a lot with him. But like some of the scenes with Nick, like his googling "Am I gay?" and then crying at the results, like that feels like it was ripped right out of my childhood. Like
That's fair. So, what do you think when I first recommended it to you versus what you think of it now? What are your expectations?
I remember you recommended it to me, and you were like, you should watch this, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, you didn't
like,
seem excited, and I was like, you're gonna love this.
Yeah, well, that's because I expected it to be more like I've seen some shows like Elite and stuff where it's like, okay, they're just like, yeah, it's like there's gay characters, but they're more, like I said, they focus a lot more on like the sexual stuff, and it's like, okay, this isn't really blah blah blah. Like I didn't realize like how heartwarming and uplifting this show was.
Heart-stopping, one might say.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, you had read the comics, so you kind of knew what to expect, and I had not. So I was just like, I don't know. And then one day I was like, oh yeah, well, Apple said I should watch the show, and like even after the first episode, I was like, oh, I love this show.
Yeah, my journey getting into Heartstopper was like, so originally, and this is a comic I just sent Rob recently. Originally, I got into all of this called Check Please. I was seeing it on my Tumblr Dash, and I can never tell when things on my Tumblr Dash are canon or not canon. And I saw two men kiss, and I was like, And I saw it more, and people were talking about it. And I was like, okay, is this canon? Are they actually gay, or is this a ship? So I read the whole fucking comic. It's canon. I was obsessed ever since. It wasn't even like she was still actively releasing comics. Technically, Check Please is wrapped up now. There are 4 books. They follow a character named Biddy through his 4 years of college, each book being a different year of college. And it's a really good story about like discovering yourself, sexuality, friendship, like becoming supposed to be, because he was like originally from Georgia, deep south. His parents are very religious. He didn't feel like he could be himself. he moves off to college and goes to a very LGBT-friendly campus, and you get to see him blossom into a person. Well, because I started being in that community, I eventually saw Heartstopper, because there was an overlap of people who read both. And then I binge read Heartstopper, which, if you didn't know, if you don't have Netflix, or you're more a reader and you like comics, like webcomics, the whole thing's available on Webtoons. Well, all of it minus like 200 pages. Those 200 pages are on her Patreon, which I am a part of, so I am fully caught up with Stopper. And she also has published books. So does Check. Physical.
Yeah, I have actually purchased the books because I knew you said they were free online, but I wanted to support the author.
Yeah,
because I liked it so much. So I'm like, I'm gonna buy the books.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I bought the books and I pay for her Patreon for Stopper. I get it. I do both. But yeah, so the world's intertwined, and then, my God, because I was a part of her Patreon for a very long time, still actively am. So whenever she got the Netflix deal, we were fucking screaming. We were just like, fuck yeah. And she shared like behind the scenes pictures, and even still knowing everything about it, it still blew my mind watching it. Like they just did a very good job, and I was so happy for her. And the fact that it got renewed for 2 more seasons is just very exciting to me.
Yeah. I watched the show first, obviously, and then I got the book. So I'm reading the book, and I'm like, wow, a lot of these lines are just directly straight from this comic. But the way that they deliver them, it's like, oh, I didn't, like, it doesn't even seem like they're reading it from the comic. It seems like so genuine. It's like, oh, okay.
They nailed it.
Yeah. The music, too. Like, the music is amazing. Like, I don't understand how they matched up all the scenes with the music so well. And they're all songs I've never heard before, and I was just like, oh my God.
I'm pretty sure there's a song from Girl in Red in Heartstopper. She's an amazing lesbian artist, and I love her. She has so many...
So I learned something, too, that I don't know if you knew, but apparently Nick and Charlie were minor characters in her first book that she wrote, which was about Tori, who is Charlie's sister. And she loved them so much from that's what Heartstopper grew from.
It's so cool. No, it's really awesome to see where things come from and what blooms from it. Because even Check Please, 2 of the characters in Check Please, because the creator of Check Please was in college still at the time. She went to Yale. She's fucking smarty. And she was just doing it as like a way to keep her art going during the summer. And then it just became fucking insane. Like, so hearing the origin stories, like, yeah, Heartstopper was just like, oh yeah, she made like a book about the sister who's asexual. Another good book to read. But it's really cool to hear like what ends up potentially getting born from other things, you know? Yeah.
Now I have a question for you, because I am not sure, because I only got the first book, and like I said, I haven't gotten the newer ones. But Elle and Isaac are a big part of the show, but neither one of them were in the first book, at least. Are they in subsequent books, or?
So, Elle is in subsequent books. Isaac is a different character in the books. I don't know why they changed the name. I don't know why they made the characteristics of the 2 are very similar, but they changed it for some reason. I trust whatever. I'm sure some sort of script writing thing happened. I don't know. They also don't have Charlie's little brother in Netflix.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And I love him. He's such a sweet soul. Yeah. I just know
they could add him later, because they never said like he didn't have a little brother. Like,
true.
He doesn't ever, like, you only saw his mom once, so
yeah, 100%. And I don't even think. I mean, and technically, Nick's like older brother doesn't really come in till later. He's in the book, so it doesn't matter that he's not mentioned. But he has an older brother.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I thought it was just his mom.
Yeah, and his dad does exist, but they're split, obviously, and like eventually they talk about that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm curious, because as like a film producer, like as someone who got a film, I know sometimes translations from book to movie, there's things that just get cut sometimes. Yeah. And I always find it interesting why
necessary to the story, or they're like, I think this will just add, like, it adds stuff, but not enough for it to warrant taking up the time that we had to add other stuff, basically.
And who knows what kind of budget she might have got for that first season, and if she wanted to focus, like his brother, might have saved them money to do.
Yeah. You are breaking up a little bit, just so you know.
I freaking see my Discord bubble. Stupid. Yeah.
And then like they added a couple extra characters I know that weren't in the book at all, like Imogen. I know she was just made up, but like,
yeah, she was.
Yeah, she's an.
It added different plot.
Yeah,
it was definitely. It. Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing. Yep.
They're both good, and I don't think that the things they changed makes it feel like a different story. It's just like the film adaptation of it, you know?
Yeah.
You should start watching some of the behind the scenes stuff with the actors. Mm-hmm. They're so good. they all just seem so fun.
Yeah. I bet. I did read a couple articles on them, like when they were rehearsing and stuff, and like I know that the guy who plays Nick, Kit Connor, actually went in to be Charlie, and they were like, no.
No. You come in. No, you are Nick.
Yeah.
Meant to be Nick. I can't even imagine him as Charlie.
Yeah, me either.
Just like what? Oh my god!
I mean, like the characters look a lot like the characters from the book. Like just their looks, I'm like, wow. Because I was reading the comment, I'm like, wow, they all look. The only thing that's not is that in the show, Nick and Charlie are basically the same height, whereas he's like super much taller than Charlie in the book.
Yeah. Oh, I loved also because the books were written a while ago, so they didn't actually. I think they were using a different social media platform than Instagram.
Yeah, they were using Facebook Messenger. I recognized the symbol on the thing when Charlie was sending messages.
Yeah, but I felt like them updating it just like fit better with the times and also didn't like take from it. I loved the Instagram posts and like the social media interactions they had.
Mm-hmm. Same. Do
you want to know more about what's coming with Heartstopper?
Probably not. I'm a person that likes to be surprised, so.
Fair.
If I were Webby, I would say, no, tell me all of it right now.
I know. Webby's like, I don't care about spoilers.
All right. So, we talked about, like, reasons why we like this. So, basically, we'll basically go through the story. So, Charlie is he's a year 10, right? So this takes place in England. So a lot of the things are going to be weird words.
Rugby is very prominent in this story.
Yeah. So Charlie he's in year 10, which here we would call like a sophomore, but they just say year 10. So he gets outed the year before somehow. It never goes into how or what happened. But he gets bullied because of it, like mercilessly. So that year he had he would hide in the art room away from everybody to eat lunch. And his friends managed to get him through it, and I guess it kind of subsided a bit. You don't know why in the show, but the book tells you that some of the older students put an end to it. Basically stepped in on his behalf and were like, fuck you.
Yeah.
But he's still picked on as basically a nerdy kid. Like some of the kids do pick on him and his friends, who Tao is his straight friend, who defends him a lot. And Elle is a trans girl who was part of their group, but was, because it's an all boys school, she ended up transferring to the all-girls school because, obviously, as a trans woman, she was not having a good time at the all-boys school.
Yeah, they kept being fucking buttheads for many transphobic and homophobic reasons.
Yeah. Elle is awesome, by the way. I'm sad she's not in the book yet. But
you'll see her, I promise, if you want to read more.
And then there's Isaac, who who is like I'm sure you know, but Isaac either seems like he's non-binary or ace, but I wasn't sure because they don't really touch on him a lot. He doesn't really say all that much. But anyway, but I'm assuming he is not straight because Tao says that he's Charlie's only token straight friend. So, but anyway, so this year the school reformed your form groups, which I guess is like homeroom to us. And it has all students from all different grades in it. And Charlie gets sat next to Nick, who is a grade above him. He's 11th year. And he's the captain of the rugby team. So they start to get to know each other. Nick sees Charlie running at PE, and he's like super fast. So their rugby team needs a reserve in order to play against other teams. So he asks Charlie to join the rugby team, and then he starts trying to teach him how to play rugby and teaches them like how to tackle and stuff. And they start hanging out a lot. So they become friends because they see each other every day. And then Nick asks Charlie to come over, or he shows him pictures of his dog, and Charlie says that he wishes he had a dog, but his parents don't like animals. So Nick tells him he should come over and be his dog. So they do, and they have a lot of fun, and it starts to snow, and they're like hitting each other with snowballs and stuff out and making snow angels and stuff, and they just have a great day. And then Nick's mother, after Charlie leaves, says that Charlie's very different from his other friends and that he seems more like himself when he's around Charlie. And Nick is like, do I? And she's like, yeah. So they start to hang out more, and then Charlie's friends start digging into Nick because they know that it has a crush, like forming a crush on Nick. So they want to know, like, either A, to put him out of his misery, or because everyone's convinced that Nick is straight.
And they're also worried about the crowd that he hangs out with being like rugby kids, of like how some of them are the people who pick on Charlie.
Yeah, there's this kid Harry that is constantly
Fucking
throwing
Harry
things at them and calling them names and stuff. So Kyle finds out from one of Nick's friends that he likes a girl called Tara Jones who goes to the girls' school.
Which isn't even true.
Yeah, so because they kissed when they were 13, and they haven't even really spoken since, but everyone's like, oh, he loves her. So
high school.
So they ask Elle to look into it because she goes to the girls' school now. So Elle does investigate and finds out that Tara and her friend Darcy are actually dating, and they're lesbians. So she tells Charlie that, she's like, don't ask me how I know this, but Tara and Nick are never going to be a thing. So then Charlie invites Nick over his house, and he's teaching him how to play the drums, and like without thinking, he takes he takes Nick's hands and starts showing him how to like do the drums, and Nick is looking at his hands like both happy and terrified, I guess is the expression. So then
he's like, what is this feeling so sudden and new?
So then they start watching a movie, and Charlie falls asleep, and then Nick keeps almost like taking his hand, but then taking it back, like, and again the terrified look of what the hell is wrong with me kind of look. So then, like I said, that's the part where I felt like I was, like I said, ripped from my childhood. Where he goes home and he Googles "Am I gay?" And he starts
BuzzFeed
like
quizzes sent me.
He takes a bunch of quizzes. Yeah, I think it's like 62%, and he starts crying because of it. And then he's like very distraught the next day at school. And Harry comes and he's like, "Are you all right, Nick?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, everything's fine. It's normal."
Oh my god.
Yeah. So then he ends up inviting Nick to his party, and says to bring some cool people. So Nick, Imogen, is like, "Oh, are you going to invite me?" And he's like, yeah, well, only if you're cool enough." And he's like, "But yeah, I guess I could invite you." So then she's like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "Hey, cute boy who I know invited me to party." And they, like, because there's a lot of art illustrations, too, from the comics that kind of, like, go through the movie. So, like, little hearts start popping over her head. And you're like, oh boy. So he ends up inviting Charlie to the party, and then Tao gets mad at Charlie because they were supposed to be going over his night that night to watch films, but Elle's like, no, just go, it's fine. We'll do something all of us together soon. So Tao's annoyed, but Charlie goes to the party anyway. And then all of his friends are pushing Nick to talk to Tara, which he does, and she tells him that she's dating another girl and that she's a lesbian, and he's like, oh. And then he talks to her about Charlie, and says that he's probably his best friend right now. So then her and Darcy leave to go dance, and goes back to look for Charlie, who has left because, they weren't really bothering him, but Harry and his friends, when they were like trying to get Nick to go talk to Tara, were basically like crowding him, and he said he felt intimidated, so he left.
Yeah, it made him. I can imagine, like, it made him feel bad because he didn't really know anyone else there. His friends were like, "Why are you going to this party?" And then it felt like they were getting proven right, his friends, that Nick got pulled away, and suddenly he was like the loner, you know?
Mm-hmm. So at the party, so Nick goes back to look for Charlie, and he's gone. So he turns around to go look like towards the dance floor, and Harry's like, "Oh, well, where are you going?" He's like, "Oh, I was going to look for Charlie." And he's like, "Why do you hang out with him?" And Nick is like, "Because he's my friend." And Charlie's like, "But why?" And then they start going on about Charlie being gay and thinking if he has a crush on Nick, and Nick's just like, "Harry, that's homophobic, and I don't even like you. Happy birthday." He walks out. But then he sees, like, as he's searching for Charlie, he sees Tara and Darcy like dancing on the dance floor together and kissing, and he's
Yay.
like, you can tell he's like, I want this, like it makes him happy to see them so happy, and he starts to think about what he really wants. So he manages to find Charlie, who in the meantime ran into Ben, who I forgot to explain Ben. So Ben was Charlie's boyfriend, unquote, quote unquote. But he was not, like, he's not out, and he doesn't, like, he has a girlfriend which he didn't tell Charlie about. And basically he was like, we're not boyfriends. I just want to meet up and make out with you sometimes, and blah, blah, blah. So Charlie ends up dumping him. And then there was a whole incident where Ben is like forcibly kissing Charlie in the hallway, and Nick comes to his rescue and like shoves Ben down the hall and tells him to piss off. That happened on like along the first episode. I kind of just forgot about that. But anyway, he runs into Ben at the party, and Charlie shoves Ben into a wall and tells him to leave him alone on his own, like basically standing up for himself that time. So they meet back up, and he tells him about Ben, and Nick was like, "Oh, why did you leave?" And he tells him that, his friends, he felt like he was in the way, and his friends are really intimidating. So he's like, "Do you want to go somewhere quieter?" So they run through because Harry is rich and he rented out a hotel, so they run through the whole hotel, like they're running upstairs, and he's racing Charlie. So then, he's so fast that Nick's like, "Oh God, I'm dying," and he's like, "That's because you're old," even though he's like only a few months older than him. So they get to the upstairs area where there's no one else. It's like an upstairs ballroom, a smaller one, but no one's up there because it's like near the top floor. So Charlie asks Nick if it was true that he likes Tara, and he's like, no. And Charlie says, "Oh, so you don't have a crush on anyone at the moment?" And Nick's like, "I didn't say that." He's like, "Oh." He's like, "Well, what's she like?" And Nick just like pauses, like a deer in headlights, but he says, "You're just going to assume it's a she." And Charlie's like shock face is like, "Are you telling me it's not a girl?" And then Nick doesn't really answer, and he starts asking him questions like, would you go out with someone that wasn't a girl? And the whole time Nick looks fucking panicked, but he's like, "I don't know, maybe." So then he asks if he would kiss someone that wasn't a girl, and he gets the same answer. So then he finally asks if he'll kiss him, and he says yeah, and they do end up kissing. But then Harry and the others call from like down the hallway looking for Nick and ask why he's hiding, and he basically panics and runs out the room. So Charlie thinks that that's basically a rejection, so he calls his dad to come pick him up, and he's very upset, like in the car. But Nick does go back to look for him in the ballroom, but finds out that he's gone. So they don't talk at all the night. Charlie keeps looking for messages on his phone, but when he doesn't get any, he thinks that Nick is basically like freaked out about the kiss and doesn't want to talk to him anymore. But then it's pouring outside, and Nick just shows up on the doorstep in the pouring rain, without a coat or an umbrella. And that was the end of one of the episodes. That's one of the parts that made me like cry in happiness, because it was just like one of those scenes from like, a romantic movie where the person just like, it's like, oh, I like you so much that I'm just standing out here in the rain waiting to see you, kind of thing. So then Nick explains that because Charlie goes on and about, so he shouldn't have kissed him, and he probably just felt pressured because he asked, and he didn't want to lose him as a friend. And Nick's just basically like, Charlie, shut up, and kisses him again. And he says, he's like, I'm so sorry that I ran away, but it wasn't. He's like, it's not like I didn't want to kiss you. I'm just so confused. And then he just like starts crying while Charlie holds him, talking about how he feels so confused and doesn't know what to think. So then he asks if they can keep it a secret at school because he's not ready to come out, which is kind of the same thing that Ben was asking, but it was different because like Ben pretended he didn't know Charlie at all, whereas they were still friends, and he comes over to Charlie's house and Charlie went over his, whereas Ben was like, we're just going to meet up at school and no one's going to know about this ever.
We're going to hide in dark corners, and I'm going to pretend like I hate
so
you,
at
basically.
One point he does mention like that he was about Ben making them keep him a secret, but he's like, it's okay, it's not the same thing. And Nick's kind of like, you can see
he's worried about it.
Yeah, he's like, is it though?
The whole time, that's what he's worried about, honestly.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be like Ben, which makes him better than Ben, because he actively doesn't want to be like him.
But anyway, because he's keeping it a secret, Charlie doesn't tell his friends either. So he ends up coming to his birthday party, there's a rugby game, and Charlie gets hurt, and then Nick is basically like in the nurse's room with him, like wiping the mud off his face when Isaac walks in, and he's like, "Sorry for interrupting." But Charlie tells him that Nick won't say, Charlie tells him Nick that Isaac won't say anything about it, and he's like, "Yeah, okay." But he doesn't tell his other friends at all, and they're worried because Nick gets ambushed by Imogen coming out of the thing, the rugby room. And all the rugby guys are there, and like some of their other friends are like gathered around, and she asks him out, and he's like panicking and not knowing like how to turn her down without making a big scene. So he's just like, yeah, okay. Which also is like, I feel for him in that moment, because in high school I got asked out by girls a couple times and I could not say no. Like I didn't know how to say no. So I could feel for that too. But anyway, so he ends up planning a date with her, and he's gonna when they're in private, he's gonna tell her that the date's not a good idea, but her dog died, so she was upset. So that again, he was like, I can't. But then Charlie asked him to go to his birthday party, which is on the same day as the date. So then he says yes without even thinking. So then Ben's like, "Oh, I heard about your date on Saturday," and thinking he's talking about Charlie, he's again panic face. He's like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, Imogen said that you guys are going on a date on Saturday," and then he's like, relief and then panic again because he's like, "Oh crap." So then he's at home and his mom has a conversation with him about it, because he's like, oh, because she asked him what's wrong because he looks upset, and he's like, well, I told Charlie that I'd go to his birthday party, but I also told this girl I'd go on a date with her at the same time. And she's like, oh, do you like this girl? And he's like, her dog died. And her mother goes, his mother's like, I don't follow. So then he explains the whole thing about how he didn't want to go out with her, but he felt pressured, and then he tried to cancel, but her dog died, so he felt sorry for her. And she's like, feeling sorry for someone is not a reason to go out and date with them. He's like, yeah, you're right. So he goes to Charlie's birthday, and Tao is acting all cold and stuff to him because he thinks that this is all some kind of big joke, and Nick's just messing with him because he doesn't know that they're actually like secretly dating either. He thinks they're just friends, like, and that Nick's like being flirty to be a jerk, I guess. Uh, so he tells Charlie in the bathroom about that he and Elle had overheard Nick was going on a date with Imogen. So Charlie starts to like Nick goes to get food and overhears them arguing in the bathroom, and Charlie or Tao tells Charlie that he thinks that uh, Nick is just messing with him, and Charlie. I mean, obviously Charlie knows that that's not true, but he almost says it. He's like Nick's and then he pauses for a long time, and then he just says friend, and then like you could see visible relief from Nick out the door, but then he also feels like ashamed. So Tao's like fine, but if he hurts you in any way, I'm going to. And Charlie's like, you'll murder him, I know. And he's like, well, I was going to send a strongly worded DM, but murder's fine too. So then they go out, and Nick basically he gives Charlie a hug for basically keeping his secret, even though it was like he could tell it was hard for him to do that. So they're just like hugging in the middle of the bowling alley. And then they go to the arcade, and Nick gives Charlie his birthday gift, which is a picture of them from playing in the snow when they were making snow angels and stuff. And he said that was just his favorite day ever. So they end up kissing in the arcade, and Nick admits about the date with Imogen, and that he explains like why it happened, and that he's gonna break it off with her and let her know that they're not gonna go. So then later he does meet up with Imogen, and he brings his dog to make her feel better, and he tells her that he doesn't feel that way about her, and he talks to her about how he feels different, like his real personality has been buried so long that he's just been doing things the way he's been doing them because that's how their friends and other people go. Like he was just going along with it, and he felt like he was different inside. And she thanks him for being honest, and then she tells everybody that because everybody asks about how their date, and she just says that they decided they were better off as friends, and that she thinks she could do better. So she doesn't even like say that they never went on the date or anything. Which was nice of her. And then basically the whole thing, they end up going to the movies together with all of Nick's friends, and Charlie and Ben and Harry end up going even though they weren't supposed to, and there's a big like blow up. Harry starts picking on Charlie at the movie theater. And then Nick, after Charlie leaves, Nick has like a fight with him, like a big blow up. Because Harry calls Charlie the F word, and Nick punches him in the face, and then they have a big fight. So then when he goes to school the next day, Nick has a huge black eye, and Charlie's like, "What happened?" So he explains to him what happened, and Charlie's like, "It's fine, I'm used to it. It happens all the time." And Nick's like, "Well, you shouldn't have to be used to it. Like people shouldn't treat you like that." And that he hates all his friends. And then now Charlie's afraid that Nick's losing all his friends because of him. So then he decides to try and break things off because he doesn't want Nick's life to be ruined, basically. So he starts avoiding him, and then Tao gets into a fight with Harry too, because they keep he's been every time Harry tried to pick on Charlie, like Tao would insult him back and stuff. So he's been fighting with Harry, like verbally the whole time. So then they get into a physical fight, and Tao's mad at Charlie because Charlie's been giving all his time to Nick. He didn't tell. He didn't tell. He was the last one that they told about him and Nick being together, because they did tell Elle. I forgot they told Elle earlier, because Nick ends up telling Tara and Darcy because they were the ones that inspired him to go for it with Charlie. So he ends up telling them about him and Charlie dating, and then they try to set up a date, a double date, and then they decide to try and get Elle and Tao together because they think they would make a good couple. So then they have a triple date, and then but Elle gets angry because she's like, "I didn't ask you to do this. I don't want things to change between me and Tao, and blah blah blah." So
She doesn't think Tao is interested,
yeah, she is. She is interested in Tao, but she doesn't think that he's interested in her.
which is very incorrect.
Yeah. So she gets kind of angry, and to smooth things over, Nick is like, "Well, we thought it would be fun to go on a triple date," and she's like, "A triple date?" And so they tell her that him and Nick are dating, and that kind of like she's like, "Oh my god!" So that kind of like smooth things over a little bit there. But then Tao's the only one that didn't know. So then that's part of the reason why he gets upset at Charlie later, because he's like, you didn't even tell me, and blah blah blah. So they have a fight, and everyone's avoiding everybody. So then they end up having this field day competition where you like everybody has to like participate for sign up things. So like a high jump, there's javelin throw, there's races, and then there's the rugby match. So Charlie runs a race for Tao, and then
The boys and girls school are there at the same time.
Oh yeah. So they're hanging out with Elle and Isaac, but Charlie's not there. So then one of the teachers tells Charlie not to let anybody make him disappear because he was hiding in the art room again. So he decides to go back to the field, and he runs a race for Tao because Tao can't run, or he hates running and he can't really do it. So he's like, "I'll do it for you." So then they kind of make up, and Tao's like, I made it hard for you to tell me the truth, and Charlie's like, I should have been there for you as much as you were there for me, and blah blah. So they end up making up. So then in the middle of the rugby match, and he tells Nick that like he tells him he wants to break up almost, like he doesn't quite get it out because they learn about the fight with Tao and Harry, so they end up like running out. But he was like saying, "Oh, I think it would be best if we just, because you're getting into fights with your friends. I feel like it's all my fault, blah blah blah." But before either of them can finish, they ran out. So then, since then, Charlie's been avoiding Nick. Like he's like, "Oh, you want to eat lunch?" And he's like, "No, I don't. I can't. Bye." So then, in the middle of the rugby match, Nick sees him watching and just stops because he scored a point and he was supposed to do a kick, and he just throws the ball at the coach and walks off the field, and everyone's like, "What are you doing?" So then he takes Charlie by the hand and takes him into the school, and he's like, "I need you to know that you're not ruining my life. Like, he's like, my life is better because I met you. He's like, you're my favorite person, and I don't want to lose you." And so they end up making up too, and then they end up deciding that Nick says that he's okay to tell people, and then he tells his mom, which is a really nice scene, with telling his mom about Charlie. And then they have a scene where they're at the beach, and they say that they're each other's boyfriends and stuff, and that's basically how the season ended.
Screaming at the ocean, saying that
Yep.
you love somebody.
Yep. And Charlie's thing at the end where he's like, I never thought this would happen to me. It's like, oh, that feels like that I could relate to that too.
Yeah. It's so soft. I love how you have it memorized.
I have seen it 10 times.
Yeah, I was gonna say, of course he has it fucking memorized. It's burned into his retinas.
To be fair, I could tell you almost every detail of the whole Twilight in chronological order, so I get it. Oh my god.
It's gonna be
Absolute-
like My New Friends, where I know all the lines. I can repeat them verbatim.
Oh my god. Now to just wait patiently for season 2.
Oh, I'm not gonna be able to wait patiently. This only came out like half a month ago. I'm like, oh
Yeah, it's
god,
gonna be a while.
Forever.
She got the Netflix deal sometime last year. So. I'm trying to think. So, okay, I'm curious which book you bought. Because I bought books 1, 2, and 3, and I was pretty sure.
I have just volume 1.
Is
I
it?
mean, I have the others on the way now, but the one I've got is just volume 1.
What color is it?
What color is it?
Hey, what color's the spine?
Pink?
Okay, yeah, I have pink, blue, and green, which is 1, 2, and 3. I know that season 1 ends at least within book 2 because it wrapped up really well. I just remember that. And I was like, oh yeah, and then it moves on. I'm like, oh yeah, that's more of it.
Yeah, well, like, because the end of book 1 is where they kiss at the hotel, so that's only the end of episode 3. So I'm like,
true.
there's 8 episodes, so is the second book only going to be episode 6? I don't know.
I don't think so. No, I think it. Some of the episodes are like longer than what the book, you know?
Yeah.
I will say, as someone who does know what happens, some of the subtle foreshadowing of things that make sense to me because I know what's gonna happen, I was like, ah, yes. So, like, I'm excited to see for people who will watch season 2 with fresh eyes to be like, oh, that thing, or ooh, that thing, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, that's right, that thing. Like, being as vague as possible so as not to ruin anything for you.
Gotcha.
She did a good job, and I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm glad that she got to be so hands-on with it. It seemed like in like the decision-making process.
Yeah. Like, I like, too, that there's some things in here that they have to deal with that it's like, there are things that you have to deal with in real life, but they're not, like it's mostly, like, an uplifting, upbeat story. So,
Yeah.
like the whole thing with Ben at the beginning, and when he's talking to the teacher, and he's like, oh, I don't know about Ben, and he's like, do you want to break up with him? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, have you talked to your friends about it? And he's like, well, they wouldn't get it. And he's like, why not? And it's like, because they're not gay. Which,
True.
it's like, yeah, I get that. Like, if you tell your friends about what's happening, they're going to instantly say, you should dump that guy. He's a piece of crap. Which is true. But then it's like, but what if he's the only guy in the whole school that's gay, and things are kind of okay sometimes with him when we're together? It's just when we're with other people. And it's kind of like that mentality where it's like, yeah, your friends are all going to say dump him because, because he sucks, but there's other people that you could date. And it's like, but are there, though? Like,
Yeah, but coming from the friend's perspective, and luckily school isn't like this as much anymore, but I do vividly remember being able to count on one hand the openly gay men in my high school. And they basically all dated each other at one point or another. That was their only options. None of them worked well together. They were vastly different people.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, yeah, you just cycle through your options if you only have, like, 2.
Yep. I had 0. Including
Fair.
me.
Including me. I didn't know yet.
Well, no, I knew, but I was not
Yeah.
out.
Right.
Yeah, and, yeah. So.
Then there's me as a child. I was like, ah, yes, I am so comfortable in my straightness. I can admit how hot women are. Women are so hot. Wow. I wasn't straight. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that too. Like, I'm like, no, you can admit when a guy's attractive. It doesn't mean you're gay, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, I relate so much to Nick Googling the I am gay, because I'm pretty sure it was Yahoo at the time, because I don't think Google was a thing. But yeah, basically the same thing. I'm just like, oh god, well.
Time for the do we have any Q&As? Anyone have any gay burning questions?
One more thing I wanted to bring up, because about the Ben thing, was the
yeah,
Tara thing with her Instagram. Like, when people are making comments about, oh, you're a lesbian, what a waste, blah, blah, blah. Like, as if, like,
ugh.
she's only valid because she would sleep with you, like kind of thing. It's like, and people have to deal with that shit. It's like, why would you even write that? But people do, and it's, I don't know.
Dude, no, like thinking about, there was like this post I saw a very long time ago about like this, it like casually was mentioned that like a cashier and a person were having a conversation. One of them was gay. The lady behind in line was like, "Oh, that's a shame." And it's like, fuck, does it matter? Who are you? You never would have interacted with this person. It doesn't affect your life at all. What do you mean? Oh, what a shame. What does that mean?
Yep.
It's insane the shit that comes out of people's mouths, and they just fucking say it with their whole chest. They don't know what the fuck.
Yeah. So, are there any questions from the peanut gallery?
Peanut gallery.
I feel like I've watched the show now.
Well, that's good. Good show.
The visuals are stunning, I will say. And the music. Rob
Yeah.
didn't sing the songs for some reason. I'm a little disappointed, Rob.
Winter, spring, summer, fall.
Go off.
Yeah, like I said, the music too, and the visuals. I really like the little cartoon, like nods to the leaves and stuff.
The leaves
From
are
the
my
cartoon,
favorite.
And the music just fits like every scene. I actually have listened to the soundtrack once now while I was just doing other things. I just had the soundtrack playing in the background because I like the songs, and they work really well with the scenes that they were put in. Bravo.
Bravo. Oh, I will say, so the Check Please community has wanted a fucking TV show forever. And we were all ecstatic for Heartstopper. We really, 1,000%. There was no, dis support. But we're all like, all right, it's our turn. Hello, gay hockey, please. It'll happen eventually.
But also, I mean, that would definitely be interesting because the dynamic is different too. Because, like I said, this obviously takes place in England. It's got rugby and stuff. And when they say "Oh, here you want a chip," and they're eating French fries, I'm like, "What? Oh, right.
What? What?
But,
You're 10? What?
Yeah.
Why is it
What's a
raining?
forum group?
Oh, right. Oh my god.
But yeah, that's.
Oh my god. I will say my favorite scene is when Imogen is in the all-girls school. And I don't remember what happens, but she approaches the table with the two lesbians and the translate woman, and she's like, "Oh, I'm an ally," and they're like, "Good for you. What do you want? An award?" Fucking, fucking bravo!
She's asking her if she's going out with Nick, and Darcy's like, she kisses her girlfriend at a crowded party. And people are still asking her if she's going out with the guy she kissed when she was 13. And then she's like, they go into this whole thing about it and whatever. And Tara's just she's like, "I'm a lesbian," and Imogen's like, "Okay, I was just asking." And then she's like, "I'm not homophobic. I'm an ally." And she says, "Congratulations. We thank you for your service."
So she says, "We thank you for your service." God, go off. Also, I love that at one point, Tara was like, "I'm here to make more gay friends." Scout out the local gays. Me too. There's just a lot of good quotes. Very quotable show.
Darcy is the pushy lesbian friend everyone needs, which is just like, come on, just admit your feelings, just do it.
Be gay, do crimes.
Yep. I like her cheese thing too. It's just like, what's their problem or whatever? She's like, you want me to throw cheese at them? She's like, no, it's not like they're actually saying it to my face.
Oh my god.
She's like, why do you have leftover cheese? And she's like, it's always good to have leftover anti-homophobia cheese.
Never know when you're gonna need it.
But yeah. Like I said, it's a feel-good story. It's the reason I like it so much is because, like I said, I never thought that there would be a story like this where I could see myself in the main characters. And this is a big thing about Pride and whatnot, is that, you know, representation does matter. It lets people see that you are a part of things, basically. Like, you're not stuffed in a dark corner. There are people that have the same feelings as you do. There are people that will accept you.
You deserve to have a happy ending.
Yeah.
Person listening to this, you deserve to have a happy ending, just so you know.
Everybody deserves happy endings. I just realized how bad that sounded.
You made him stop! Rob, I can't. This is how you know Donnie's asleep.
Yep.
Oh my god.
All right. So are there any more questions? If not, we can wrap this up, I guess. Hearing none.
Crickets.
I
Oh, Webby
got
unmuted.
nothing.
Lame.
Oh, sorry. Go back to muting myself.
Oh my god.
So yeah, everybody, I definitely recommend watching it. Even if you're not gay, you will get a lot out of it, I think. And there's lots of different people in it that are represented. So yeah, it's just, it makes me feel good to watch it. It makes me happy. So Webby, do we have a science corner with Webby?
Oh my god.
Yeah, water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
That is true.
See, I'm a fucking
Insightful.
Do you know what it freezes at Celsius?
0.
Oh,
Wow.
mad lad. Absolutely fucking big brained.
All right. We have life advice with Apple.
Oh shit, life advice? Okay, don't live to work, work to live. So that you prioritize your life and not work. You shouldn't be living for working. Boom.
Definitely sound advice.
Probably not one that many people can afford to take with gas prices the way they are.
No, because it doesn't even mean just that. It means give yourself downtime and don't let yourself be swallowed by your work if you, when you don't have to.
Along those lines, I actually saw something today. I don't remember who sent it to me or where I saw it, but it said something like, remember that you're replaceable at work, but you're not replaceable at home. Home is what matters more.
Facts. Good facts.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Gay episode.
Gay episode. Our Pride Month special. Hopefully next year for Pride Month I can talk about season 2 if it comes out that
Hell yeah.
quickly. Okay. But Webby, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at what's Donnie's Twitter?
Like DBronner21, I think.
DBronner21 on Twitter. And then all
And
the
Apple.
places.
Apple.
Sorry, did you say me?
Oh, yep.
Yeah. At Twitter, it's Appleschloss21. At most other places, it's just Appleschloss.
And Ryan, since you said a few words, if you like to.
Oh, I didn't do anything here. I'm just crimtastic on Twitter.
And you can follow me at Jack Sportswalker, all one word.
Fuck you. Give your own out. Stop acting like Donnie.
You can follow me. Yeah, but that's how you always end it.
You know what? Every time people do that, I'm just okay. They're not going to be on the next episode. I'm going to wait until I just start doing these episodes by myself. Apparently.
Oh boy. But that's how it always ends. I was the host. I have to end it with that Jack Sportswalker. You can find me on Confessor_X on Twitter. And on twitch.tv/ConfessorX on Twitch. You can find Matilda at Matilda_DMP, who has become greatly more popular than me on Twitter. So, follow her.
Oh my god.
With that, everybody, thank you for listening. We love you. And fuck Booster Gold.
As Blue Beetle would say, fuck Booster Gold.
But
Ooh, I don't think Blue Beetle would say that, but I like the cut of your jib on that one.
No, it's a gay joke.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's saying he wants to fuck Booster.
Yes. Thank you, Rob.
Well,
Rob got it.
I'll just see myself out.